All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Kasparian with you guys. We're almost there. We're almost there. So for those of you who missed the earlier updates, Wisconsin has been called. Joe Biden is the winner. Michigan has been called. Joe Biden is the winner. Wisconsin was 0.6. That's how close it was. Michigan was 1.2. Now, all there's left is Arizona and Nevada. Now, the Pennsylvania and Georgia are still out there, and so is North Carolina. Technically, so is Alaska. But I say Arizona and Nevada because Arizona's been called by half the news organizations, but not the other half. If they're called by everyone, we're done with that. And then Nevada's the last 6 that Biden needs. He's got a 0.6 lead there with 86% reporting. He is likely to win it, but it hasn't happened yet. So the election has not been called, but I got my sound machine right here ready for ladies and gentlemen. So close, might happen while we're live right here, okay? That Fox News had to interrupt Rudy Giuliani raving about how stolen elections to call Michigan in favor of Biden. Me likey. Okay, so, and one last thing, guys, for now, and we're gonna give you all the updates on the legal and political and physical shenanigans that the Trump team is up to in their desperation to avoid this result. And we're gonna do that in just a second. But in terms of just running through those states, Alaska's irrelevant. Trump is very, very likely to win it. It just hasn't been counted yet. Although if we were like Trump, we'd be like, stop counting, stop counting. We think we won Alaska. Okay, no, that's not gonna happen. So I told you Nevada and Arizona will do it, and they're almost done. So the other 3 are unnecessary, but North Carolina and Georgia have not moved at all since we last left you late last night. And it's very frustrating, but presumably they'll come in probably fairly quickly when they do, probably all at once, especially in Georgia. And there, Biden has still got a 64% chance of winning Georgia. He has less of a chance of winning North Carolina. Trump is favored by 84%, but I'm just telling you it's not impossible. And then Pennsylvania has moved. It's now down to 5-point lead for Trump with 85% reporting, and that lead used to be 15, then it was 13, then 10, then 8, now 5, and so it's coming in exactly as we expected. In fact, I actually want to give you one quick stat about that that's super relevant, and that'll give you a sense of it. So far, there is 1.1 million votes left to count in Pennsylvania. It's a giant state, and Biden needs to win 62% of those votes to win the state. So that seems like a pretty high bar to win 62%, except so far absentee ballots have fallen. The ones that have been counted already in Pennsylvania have gone to Biden by a rate of 78%. So that is what's leading people to believe that Biden will also win Pennsylvania. Summary of all of that is that Biden could even get above 300 electoral college votes, and then it will seem like it was not a close election. But let's keep it real. It was a close election. So it'll be the reverse of 2016, where Biden narrowly wins a number of states and might have a decent electoral college count, just like Trump did. But all those victories, both for Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020, were very narrow and way too close for comfort. And the polls were, in fact, quite wrong. So we'll get into that a little bit later again.
So before we get to the stories we have prepared for you guys, I do want to address one thing, Cenk.
No, okay.
Do you understand why I was vehemently against your way too premature prediction about a Biden blowout?
You know what I want to do? So yesterday we talked about that a little bit in our legendarily long 2-hour postgame for the members at the end of election night. If you're a member already, please check that out. It was really good analysis in different parts from Nando and JR and Brett and Michael. It was a great conversation about not just yesterday, but the future. So tyt.com/join to become a member, to check that out, check this out. or hit the join button below on YouTube. So I tell you all that partly because I want you to watch that, but also because today, Anna, I want to expand upon what I said at the end of that post game about why I was wrong about the polling. Because there's a part that I didn't explain in that post game that I think is super important, and it has to do with my race in California. And so I'll explain that and what went wrong, because it's really important for all of us to know that so we get it right next time, okay? Me included, obviously, or me predominantly, because I'm the one that I think you're right, Anna, overconfident in this case. And so, but we all learn together. We're not like the right wing. We believe in facts, we believe in data, and if we're wrong, we accept that and we adjust, okay? So we'll adjust together.
That's fair, but there's one concession that I need right now on the spot, and it's the most important concession because it will decide how we cover elections moving forward. For the love of God, please concede that we can no longer trust. I mean, I had stopped trusting a long time ago, but this place as an organization will no longer rely on anything coming out of 538 or Nate Silver's mouth. I don't care about what Nate Silver has to say. Okay? Nate Silver has proven to fail in his polling over and over again, and yet every cable news network, every show, including our own, will have these unbearable panel discussions where it's like, oh, well, guess what? This is what Nate Silver has to say about it. It's the math. No, Nate Silver he will fail upward, I'm sure. I'm sure he will find himself in either he's gonna stay at that institution or somewhere else where people will still take him seriously. But I don't care what Nate Silver has to say.
Okay.
Period.
So that requires some nuance, but first we have to point out these emotes on Twitch that they're showing in the lower third here. I'm in favor of my of course face on the left, but what is that face on the right and why is that an emote? Things have been done in an unsanctioned way.
That is messed up. That is pretty messed up. Jeez.
Man, if any,
it's KEKW. It's an emote that exists that people.
Yeah, no,
that's your
know,
face. First of all, not modified, but that is a.
Yes,
that is
I know, Brett. That's actually my face
of a very popular.
Brett
emote.
is getting very defensive about that emote.
I know that's actually my face. It happened to be caught at a inopportune time. I know that it's an emote that already exists on Twitch, and so look, guys, for a guy who is charged with having a very big ego, and in some ways guilty as charged, I'm okay, man. You could make fun of me all you like. I could admit I'm wrong all day long, okay? Because the only thing that matters is facts and reality. All right, anyways, Anna, I'm gonna address that too, because it isn't, what you're saying is, honestly, I think it's only half right. Nate Silver doesn't do the polling, he combines the polling, and he does analysis of the polling, and I'm gonna explain what part of the polling is right and what part is wrong. And I think it's super important conversation for how we cover elections going forward. But let's do it for the members because we wanna do some important news stories for you guys right now. And again, if you want to be a member and get that conversation, hit the join button below on YouTube, on Twitch. Already people are subscribing, and it's so easy on Twitch because if you have Amazon Prime, it's free for you, but we get the revenue. It's perfect. So check that out, and obviously everywhere else, tyt.com/join. All right, what's the first story, Anna?
All right, well, election night didn't look so great for Joe Biden, but as we expected, as more of the mail-in ballots started to get counted in some of these swing states, Biden closed in on Trump, and in some cases, he now has the lead on Donald Trump. For instance, even Fox News and its decision desk has said that Biden is projected to win Michigan. Now, Donald Trump is doing exactly what we expected him to do. On election night, he prematurely declared victory, which was ridiculous. And then today, his campaign is filing lawsuits in various states where Biden has taken the lead, including in Michigan. And so the Trump campaign has sued to stop vote counting in the state of Michigan until it has the opportunity to observe how the ballots are being tabulated. And shortly after this story broke, sure enough, you have Trump's so-called poll watchers showing up to the polls in an attempt to intimidate poll officials as they were counting the ballots. So let's take a quick look at that. So Bill Stepien, who is the Trump campaign manager, also released a statement saying, we have filed suit today in the Michigan Court of Claims to halt counting until meaningful access has been granted. We also demand to review those ballots which were opened and counted while we did not have meaningful access. President Trump is committed to ensuring that all legal votes are counted in Michigan and everywhere else. Now, keep in mind, on the night of the election, Donald Trump very clearly stated that vote counting should stop. Why? Because he was leading in these states last night, but as more of these ballots were being counted, of course, Biden takes the lead. Now, all of a sudden, no, we need to halt vote counting. We need to halt vote counting. It's absolutely disgusting, undemocratic. The Trump supporters who are in favor of this have never believed in democracy. They do not believe in the right to vote. They do not believe in the Constitution. And every Republican who is sheepishly and anonymously speaking out against Donald Trump is a feckless lowlife who has absolutely no reason to be in any position of power. They don't deserve it. They don't believe in protecting our democracy, and they should. I mean, I would say they should have been voted out of office, but we don't even know who they are because many of them won't even speak out by identifying themselves. And there are more examples, but Cenk, go ahead.
Yeah, lots to say. First of all, I've seen this movie before. The mobs outside demanding to stop counting. That was the infamous Brooks Brothers mob down in Miami, Florida, in the year 2000 in Bush v. Gore. Later, every one of those concerned citizens was identified as a Republican consultant, strategist, or lobbyist. So, and that was, by the way, orchestrated by Trump friend and loyalist Roger Stone back in 2020. So did he do it again here? I don't know, it doesn't matter. And now they actually have mobs of real people too that they could just activate. Donald Trump sent out a message last night saying, stand by. And so there they are standing by. Only Republicans claim that they're in favor of democracy, America, Constitution, and freedom, and then chant, stop counting, stop counting, stop counting. I think that's the core of democracy, where we count all of the votes. To that point, get a load of Donald Trump's claims, and this is literally what he went through. He's like, in Pennsylvania, I'm leading. You gotta stop counting. Stop counting in Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, we're losing. No, you got to do it. In fact, we lost. We're doing a recount. I want you to not only count, but count twice in Wisconsin. Stop counting in Pennsylvania, count twice in Wisconsin. Nevada, we're losing. Keep counting. Keep counting in Nevada, okay? In Michigan, when he was leading, he's like, you got to stop counting. You got to stop counting in Michigan. Now that he's lost, you got to recount Michigan. He says all this with a straight face. They went through all of those things I just described to you. Joe Biden's stance throughout all of this has been very simple. Count all the votes. Gee, I wonder who's right and who's wrong. I wonder who's going to win and who's not and knows it. And I wonder who's actually an American and believes in democracy and who isn't. If you're part of a mob chanting, stop the count, you might not believe in democracy. But my favorite actually out of all of this is their excuse for the stopping the count in some of the states, including in Pennsylvania. So Anna read you the quote from the campaign manager. Rudy Giuliani clarified it today. Oh, thank you, Rudy, we appreciate it. As soon as I saw the story from Stepien, I noticed one word that was critical. He said, so we did not have meaningful access to those ballots. Oh, so you had access, right? If they didn't have access to votes, as they were being counted, that would be a problem, right? And they would definitely say it. Republicans and representatives of the Republican and Democratic candidates are allowed to observe as the count is happening. Good, no, great, I love it, right? We want to confirm it. So they had access. They didn't have meaningful access. That's the thinnest read they have. So I was wondering what the hell they're talking about when they say meaningful access. So Giuliani steps in today and goes, we weren't allowed binoculars. I'm not kidding. And it's not just crazy Rudy Giuliani, who they're putting out in a press conference representing them, but former Attorney General for Florida, Pam Bondi, who the Republicans think is a star. They're like, well, I mean, she's a lunatic, she's a woman, she's relatively young, and she'll say anything we want. Oh, she's a star. She comes out, I totally agree with Rudy, man. I mean, how can you look at the ballots without binoculars? That's why we didn't have meaningful access.
No, the Republican Party is far gone. Anyone in the Democratic Party who still treats the Republican Party and its voters as the same people who represented the party back in like the 1980s and 1990s, wake up. And that includes Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who's like, as soon as we put this election behind us, we're gonna put all this harsh, mean rhetoric behind us as well, and we are gonna unite. No, we're not gonna unite though, Joe. We're not gonna unite. Know your enemy and know the country's enemy. People who do not believe in democracy, who do not want to count every vote, those aren't people who have any interest in uniting or working together to create a better country. And so it looks like Biden's gonna win. And as you can see, I am not in a good mood. And the reason why I'm not in a good mood is because Democrats suck and they did not take control of the Senate. They lost a ton of seats in the House of Representatives. We'll get to that a little later in the show. And then at the same time, even after all of this, Joe Biden is like, oh, we're gonna unite with all these QAnon insane people and lunatics, and we're gonna have a better country as a result. No, we're not though. We're not. They don't want to unite with you. But who am I talking to? Like, what use is it at this point? What use is it?
I hear you. Don't worry, Anna. Joe Biden is going to put together a bipartisan commission on unifying, so it's all going to be okay. So look, last things here. Yesterday in the post game for the members, I raged about Harry Reid because he said, Lindsey Graham has finally gone to the dark side, and golly gee, I really like him, but I hope he loses this election. Wow, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate for all those years just figured out Lindsey Graham might not be a good guy. The Democrats are the worst. They don't even realize who their opponents are. They think they're in the same party.
They just don't.
Yeah, and back to the Republicans you were mad at, Anna. Good news, bad news there, right? The bad news is what you pointed out. These cowards are still hiding in the shadows like, but shouldn't we count all the votes in a democracy? Okay, but make it anonymous. I don't want Trump to hit me. Oh, you're pathetic. Even as he's about to lose all power and be out the door, you're still scared of his shadow. But the good news is, it appears based on every Republican that's on TV, all the way up to Chris Christie, and talking to the press off the record, they're all like, no, there's no mechanism by which we ask to stop counting. There's a mechanism by which we ask to stop a recount. There's a mechanism by which we challenge whether certain votes should count or not, depending on the procedure that was taken. But there is no mechanism where we go, I don't know, just stop counting at 86%. It's not a thing. So, and the reason why that's good news is because finally it appears to the Republicans that Trump is going to lose his power, and they're dipping their toe in like, oh yeah, well actually, yeah, fascism probably not a great idea. Did I get hit? Did I get hit? Am I okay? Am I okay? So it's important because if Trump just keeps saying, I win, I win, I win, I win, at some point, Republicans, and if that fails, Secret Service, if that fails, the military, et cetera, at some point, but most likely the Republicans have to step in and go, Donnie, you're not getting it. You lost. You really, really got to go home.
Let me give you something more from Donnie, okay? And look, Republicans are gonna Republican. Like, I don't expect anything from Republicans. I don't expect them to be courageous. I don't expect them to defend our democracy or our voting rights. Republicans are, I'm gonna stop before I say words that will probably get me in trouble with the FCC on this show. But let me go ahead and give you some of Trump's recent tweets, and then I want to rage more against Biden and his whole ideology of unity, because this is what he wants to unify behind. So Trump tweeted this: "We have claimed for electoral vote purposes the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania," meaning that he thinks he won Pennsylvania already, "which won't allow legal observers. The state of Georgia and the state of North Carolina, each of which has a big Trump lead. Additionally, we hereby claim the state of Michigan."
We hereby claim it. Oh, well, okay, good for you.
"If in fact there was a large number of secretly dumped ballots as has been widely reported.
Reported nowhere in legitimate media. I don't know what the Breitbarts of the world are doing these days and what conspiratorial fantasies they have, but there are no actual reports of any ballots being dumped, let alone magically dumped.
I'm done with it. I'm done with it. So that's Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump had threatened to do, right? For months. We all knew this was gonna happen. And Joe Biden, I'm gonna pull up the tweet. Nonsense conversations about unity. Hey, Joe, Republicans don't respect you. Now that the Senate is sure to continue to be controlled by Republicans, that means that you will get absolutely nothing done for at least the first 2 years of your presidency. Okay, they will go against anything and everything that Biden wants to do. And keep in mind that Biden, when you really think about it, is more representative of like a 1980s Republican. Okay,
oh, definitely.
So even being like a Republican isn't good enough for the extremists in the Senate. Okay, so how are you gonna unite? Uniting means you're just gonna concede to everything that Republicans want. Okay, fine. But more importantly, look, the reason why Biden was the better option in this case is because you have one candidate, Donald Trump, who clearly does not respect democracy, does not care about your vote, doesn't care about who Americans want to lead them. And then you have Biden, who, in the very least, and this is honestly the only thing I can point to at this point, believes in counting every vote. That's the only thing. He at least wants to maintain our democracy. But given that, he will be honestly ineffective. He's not gonna get anything done in the first 2 years. And then in the midterm elections, do we think that these loser corporate Democrats are gonna take over the Senate? You think they're gonna do it then? You think they're gonna do it then? They're not gonna do it then. And then when Biden's done with his first term, you think this country is gonna elect Kamala Harris? You think that's gonna happen?
Do you?
This country is a disaster, and our biggest enemies as progressives, yes, of course, Republicans, but more importantly, the people who hinder our progress in this country the most are the corporate Democrats, period. They do not represent us. They are as feckless as they can possibly be. They allowed Bush to steal the election in 2000, and I guarantee you that if Trump fights hard enough, they might be able to do it again this year. We'll see how it goes, but I'm just beyond depressed by the lack of leadership in Congress, in our presidential candidates, just across the board, embarrassment. And we have a significant portion of this country essentially raising their hands and saying, yeah, that's right, we don't believe in democracy. Yeah. We just pretended like we believed in democracy when we wanted to point to Colin Kaepernick and tell him he's a bad guy for kneeling during the national anthem. Oh, he is not respectful to our troops. What do you think telling people that we shouldn't count every vote means? You think that's respectful to our troops? Who supposedly fought for our freedom, according to what they say?
Yeah,
it's pathetic.
So the people agree with the salt dragon. Mario Williams writes in on Super Chat, I feel your frustration, Anna, and you're right, unite with QAnon. Why are we even validating them? Why are we validating any of these illegitimate Republicans? The Democrats do a huge favor to Republicans when they go, I mean, look, this Trump is an aberration. Normal Republicans are great. They're wonderful, they're great. No, they're not. They all agreed with Trump. They all agreed with Trump. Almost every Republican senator and almost every Republican congressman on almost every issue agreed with Donald Trump. So why are you doing them a favor by increasing their brand and making their brand more positive when you should be pummeling their brand right now? Joe, they're on the other side. They're on the other side, okay? Your job is to beat them, okay? And so, look, I actually think it's the situation is a little bit worse than Anna said, believe it or not, because the way that it is going to work is now that the Democrats unbelievably have basically lost the Senate. They were supposed to retake the Senate. And they had these monumental advantages in every way.
But they're losers.
But they lost, and so it looks like right now the Republicans are favored to keep a slight majority in the Senate. So that doesn't mean we're not going to get anything done. That's a terrible case scenario where the Republicans will blame all of it on the Democrats and win the next election while we get nothing for electing a Democrat. Now you're saying, Cenk, how could it be worse than that? I know Joe Biden. He's going to be desperate to do a deal with the Republicans. Desperate. And they're going to be like, come to Papa. So Mitch McConnell is going to offer him one horrific deal after another. And he's probably going to take half of them on McConnell's terms, including the big one out there, the grand bargain. Biden and Obama wanted to do it back when they were in charge. The Republicans got greedy. They wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare even more than Obama and Biden proposed. This time around, Biden might come back to try to finish the job. And I think at this point, McConnell will be like, oh, you want to cut Social Security and Medicare? Yes. So I hope to God it doesn't happen, but that's on the board. That is a very distinct possibility. So, yeah.
Markets are doing real well today. Yeah. There's a reason for that. I mean, we'll talk about it more in depth later in the show, but
look, this is a pattern. Again, you won't see this in mainstream media. You can look it up anywhere, and they'll write about it on, in an article in the middle of Washington Post or New York Times. So you'll see it's a verified fact, but you'll never see it talked about on cable news. They won't feature it in the headlines, etc. Obama made at least 82% of Bush's tax cuts for the rich permanent. Bush couldn't do that. He couldn't get that through the Congress. He had to have what's called a sunset provision. Obama's like, no, I got you, dog, no problem. We'll make 82% of it permanent, okay? I'll finish the job for you. And then Obama and Biden offered to cut Social Security and Medicare. Why do you never see that in cable news? Oh no, Obama and Biden are sainted. We're not allowed to criticize them. What do we press? They're a joke. They're a total joke. And now Biden will come back to finish the job on Social Security and Medicare. That's at least what we're worried about. They tell us, no, Biden's a new Biden. Now he's progressive. Really? What have we seen so far? He didn't run on any of these things. He didn't run on the $15 minimum wage in Florida. It turns out that won in a ballot measure by 22 points, and Biden lost Florida. Why? Because he didn't run on minimum wage. He didn't run on any of the things that Anna talked about. Why do we have this insane conversation about Colin Kaepernick's kneeling habits? Because the Republicans took a tiny thing, which I wish was a bigger thing, where we say, hey, you know what, look, let's draw attention to his protest about black people being murdered by our own police that we pay for, all of us pay for in America. That's an amazing and important issue. But they didn't discuss that at all. They're like, he's attacking our veterans. What? And that became a giant national issue. That's called branding. They put that brand on the Democratic Party, bad against veterans, against the flag, okay, against our troops, right? Meanwhile, the Republicans cut funding for veterans all the time. And now they're saying we shouldn't even count the veterans' votes. They're mail-in ballots from abroad. Stop the count. Who cares about veterans? Joe Biden could go out there and go, you are not gonna do that to our veterans. I will not let Trump, who called them suckers and losers, try to take away their vote. They fought and some of them died for our freedom. And now you're gonna try to take that freedom away from him and from them? When's the last time you saw a Democrat do that? A corporate Democrat? Zero, never. They never make their own case, partly because it ain't their case. They don't really care. They're basically Republicans. So a Republican Senate might be Biden's dream come true. So that's the sorry state we're in. But at least we saved democracy. Lowest bar ever, and Biden barely cleared it.
We got to take a break, and now following my tantrum, we will talk about Donald Trump's tantrum that took place last night. Then later in the show, we will talk about why the markets are doing so well today. And looks like some centrist Democrats want to do away with Democratic leadership. Who are they thinking about replacing Pelosi with? Not so good, but I'll give you the details when we come back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be. Featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity, the UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. So first of all, let's see how our fundraising is doing. We didn't get a chance to talk about it too much last night, but guys, this is super critical to our sustainability, our health, our strength, and we do this show together. And so make our progressive voice stronger. Some of you enjoyed Anna's Raging Against the Machine today, and you know we got plenty of that every single day because we fight for you guys. We fight for progressives, and we're not apologetic about it. No question. You don't want us to be, and we're not. So tyt.com/go. So we're not relying on big corporate sponsors. We're relying on you guys. It's just for this year, and we try to reach 200,000 a month. We missed in September and October. We're trying to get it in November. We're at 34,545. If we can get to 35,000 by the end of the next break, that would be amazing. So if you can help out there, that would be fantastic. Speaking of helping out, we only pick progressive sponsors, so Plant Your Change is perfect. So if you have a credit card, debit card from any bank, it doesn't matter, whichever one you normally use. If you want to, you go to tyt.com/trees and you figure out how to hook it up. It takes about a minute. And every dollar is rounded up. Why? They use it to plant a tree. So no matter what it is, it's 15 cents, 3 cents, doesn't matter. They plant a tree every time you round up to $1. If you want to do that and that helps the environment, go to tyt.com/trees. And you know, anyway, so I was gonna talk about the right wing, but we'll save it for another day. Let me go to you guys. Here is the members' comments. The Oranges of Totalitarianism, which is a funny handle, says, we're not even gonna get a public option, are we?
Oh, that was cute.
No, okay, but seriously, I mean, look.
If Democrats controlled the Senate, I doubt we would get a public option then. But now, I mean, yeah, I would be shocked if we kept the Affordable Care Act at this point.
Yeah, so, well, no, I wouldn't go that far.
The Supreme Court?
Oh, well, yeah, kind of. All right.
We're gonna have a great country.
Guys, look, I know how to win on that fight, and maybe we will, because we have now some serious Justice Democrats in there, and you gotta trust me that they're gonna cause good trouble, but without just Democrats, you have a 0% chance of getting the public option. And look, you know what? It's so important. Again, we'll discuss that in the post game for members. tyt.com/join or hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube, because that's such an important topic as to how do you get that strategy and execute it. I'll explain at that point. Rainbow Bright wrote in, can we admit that the Biden-Harris ticket killed down ballot races? Oh, absolutely. We're about to talk about that now, so you read our mind. And Pocket in a Pocket wrote, I feel a little silly about freaking out last night since this is exactly what everybody said was gonna happen at Red Mirage. Yes and no. So I told you all throughout, if you remember, I said we might be at our nadir, but Biden is still favored because, and I explained the Red Mirage, etc. Now, having said that, you were not wrong for freaking out because these results are much closer than the polls indicated. The polls missed by a gigantic 7 to 8 points. So the freak out, not altogether wrong. And speaking of which, last one is Super Chat. Yair H says, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. Keep up the great work, Cenk. Thank you for fighting this fight. Thank you. And of course, that goes for everyone on the Young Turks. And guys, when you sign up now, you'll see on YouTube and Twitch, etc. We put up the member names, which you just saw there in the ticker down below. So we appreciate you guys doing this show with us. All right, Anna, what's next?
Well, let's talk a little bit about how much the Democratic Party has failed. The Hill has run a story regarding the leadership in the Democratic Party, especially Nancy Pelosi, who did a pretty awful job in protecting incumbent Democrats who were up for re-election. So let me give you the details on what two centrists who spoke to the Hill on condition of anonymity had to say. Stung by their party's disappointing showing at the polls Tuesday, two moderate House Democrats say they and other centrists are privately discussing a plan that was unthinkable just 24 hours earlier, throwing their support behind a challenger to Nancy Pelosi.
Ooh, unthinkable.
So why? Now, I mean, I've already kind of given it away, but first off, in the Senate, there was some hope that Democrats would take control, and of course they have not. Susan Collins got reelected.
Susan
Collins got reelected, but okay.
Okay, Anna, can I just say?
Susan Collins.
Susan Collins got reelected. Okay. By 8 points in Maine. Total, utter failure. By the way, the moderate Democrats, Sarah Gideon against Susan Collins, Amy McGrath against Mitch McConnell, who I think lost by 22 points or something along those lines, just crushed. And Jamie Harrison, who is the least offensive of all of them, and we wish he'd beaten Lindsey Graham, but he didn't. But those three spent $300 million of your money and got crushed. So how about, can we just once, in a prominent race that has a lot of media attention, can we try a progressive candidate once? No way, we got this figured out. Corporate Democrats are the way to go. You're bringing lobbyists, and you do, oh, for God's sake. And you notice what Anna said. They're gonna try to challenge Nancy Pelosi from the right.
So let me give you those details.
Oy.
So, some details that I do want to get to. To Cenk's point, Jamie Harrison raised $108.9 million to beat Lindsey Graham. He did not win, of course. In Kentucky, Amy McGrath, who was like Republican light for sure, raised $90 million, did not beat Mitch McConnell. In Maine, Sarah Gideon raised $69.5 million and lost to Susan Collins. And in Texas, Mary Hegar, who raised $24 million, lost to Senator John Cornyn. Now, who else lost yesterday? These are people who are challenging Republicans, but there were a number of Democratic incumbents who lost as well. For instance, Senator Doug Jones in Alabama lost. Representative Debbie Mucarsel Powell in Florida lost. Representative Donna Shalala lost in Florida.
Oh my God.
Representative Abby Finkour lost in Iowa. Representative Colin.
Oh, do you remember? Sorry, I'm interrupting you, Anna, but she was part of the kick-ass coalition that CNN made up. And she was one of the ass kickers that said, let's kick some ass by agreeing with the Republicans. How'd that work out, Abby?
She got her ass kicked right out of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
See you later.
Oh, by the way, did any of the Just Democrats lose, the incumbents? Nope, none of them, zero. They all won easily, super easily. Funny.
Representative Colin Peterson in Minnesota lost. Representative Kendra Horn in Oklahoma lost. Representative Torres Small in New Mexico lost. And finally, Representative Joe Cunningham in South Carolina also lost. Now let's talk about who Democrats are floating to replace Nancy Pelosi, since she has been a pretty disastrous leader. So two Democrats told The Hill on Wednesday that they're reaching out to their colleagues about backing one of Pelosi's top lieutenants, House Democratic Caucus Chairman Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker. But like, are you guys shocked though?
What a joke.
Because they don't learn anything. They don't, I think that's really at the heart of what's enraging me today. Because there were no lessons learned in 2016, we know that. And there certainly have been no lessons learned in 2020. I mean, to say, oh, Nancy Pelosi, she really failed. So let's find someone further to the right of her to replace her. I mean, he is He is to the right of Nancy Pelosi on most issues, very much against Medicare for all, was gloating about Bernie Sanders not being the Democratic nominee. He's very pro-Israel government, refuses to ever criticize anything the government of Israel does. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So of course they would float a name like that. And of course, he's saying like, no, I don't even want to talk about anything like that. I'm not even considering it.
Oh no, of course not. No,
we'll see.
He's aghast by the suggestion. Well, please write it. Okay, put it in the headline, okay? Let me clarify a bunch of things. So first of all, remember Hakeem Jeffries is theoretically a Democrat, supporting the government of Israel currently is, and for a long time, run by Bibi Netanyahu, the equivalent of Dick Cheney or Donald Trump in Israel. Why would a Democrat support one of the most right-wing governments in the world? Okay. Hakeem Jeffries is one of the guys who attacked Justice Democrats. He's the guy they send out to attack any progressive. And the thesis behind this is, okay, fine, he's a corporate Democrat too. But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real about their strategy. But he's an African-American corporate Democrat. Ooh, that makes me feel so much better. I don't care. Your identity politics didn't work in this election. They almost never work. The fact that you can get someone who is a minority to tell us how great corporations are doesn't help you at all. And so I'm from a Muslim background. If you got some Muslim to come out here and go, no, but Jake, you don't understand. The bankers are just so awesome. They should be your friend. What do I care? What do I care that he's Muslim? What do you care that he's black if he doesn't actually stand up for actual voters, the voters in his district and throughout the country? No, so they're a giant joke. Let me give you a sense of the brilliant corporate Democrats and their moderate strategies. Of course, they back Colin Peterson because he's an incumbent Democrat in Minnesota. Colin Peterson voted against impeachment and opposes abortion rights. He's anti-choice, Colin Peterson. But hey, we got to win that district. We got to win it. Guess what happened? He lost. He lost last night. But what happened? I thought your genius idea was to run Republicans posing as Democrats and then they would win. Well, it turns out didn't even win. So Sherry Bustos was the head of the DCCC. That's the group in charge of winning seats in the House. And her genius idea was mercilessly attack progressives, blacklist any company or organization that works with any challenger to an incumbent Democrat, except, by the way, Nancy Pelosi, who worked with a primary challenger against an incumbent Democrat. But who cares? We're corporate Democrats, will just cheat and there'll be no consequences. Well, Sherry Bustos, how many of those elections did you win? Almost none. You got your way. You got massively conservative Democrats running in all those elections, and you lost all of them. So, by the way, you want to know which election has not been called? Sherry Bustos' own election. She hasn't won re-election yet.
Good. Hopefully she doesn't.
And you know what their solution is going to be to Sherry Bustos? She was like the third most right-wing Democrat. What if we went with the second most right-wing Democrat to run our failing operation? So, because as we've said 1,000 times on the Young Turks, they don't have the same objective as us. We look at it as, well, why don't we want to pick up more Democratic seats so we can get legislation passed that we all agree on?
There's really no difference if these are the Democrats that are in office. There really is no difference.
Yeah, that's not their objective at all. Their objective is, how can I make my donors happy so I can keep my power? And they think the only way to keep their power is money, 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 money. And so they have discriminated against progressives, and it's a failing, losing strategy. And this is pretty much the only place you'll see it. Everyone else in the mainstream media will still call, they'll forget instant amnesia. They'll forget all about this. They'll call Nancy Pelosi a master legislator, and they'll think the only thing that's a legitimate challenge to Nancy Pelosi is from the right wing. That makes no logical sense, but they don't have to make sense because they're doing propaganda. They're not doing the news. So you know what should happen? A real serious challenge to Nancy Pelosi from the left. I don't know why we wouldn't challenge her from the left. And by the way, I got to tell you, the progressives in Congress, you gonna do something or are you gonna sit there all day long? Keeping it real.
All right, well, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a closer look at the Latino vote. I think that those numbers are incredibly important, and critique some of Biden's campaign strategy. Come back for that.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
And more.
All right, back on the Young Turks. You got to protect your computer, so try tyt.com/purevpn. PureVPN. Give that a shot. It'll show up on the lower third at some point.
Organic VPN.
There you go. Pure. Yeah, that's right. Awesome milestone. Last night, we crossed 5 million subscribers on our flagship channel, the Young Turks. Da, 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 da. In fact, I think, don't I have that? Hey, okay, there you go. So now we have 20 million subscribers across all of our platforms and channels. But this is the granddaddy channel, the one that we started with. This is the first channel to ever become a YouTube partner. And this is, the Young Turks, actually the longest running show in internet history. So thank you to all of you, and thank you for being a subscriber, to all 5 million of you that subscribed to this channel. Let's keep it going. All right, and then just one fun comment. Stephen Kakamonga writes in a super chat, Anna is my rage avatar. Thank you, sister.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
I was actually a little worried that my rant would turn some of you guys off, because I'm trying to be a little more calm and measured in my commentary, but it's
it isn't working.
I know, it's not who I am. I'm sorry.
It didn't stick.
I know. All right, well, let's talk about the Latino vote.
Yep.
So Biden did not campaign to appeal to Latino voters. In fact, back in May, his campaign strategist made clear that appealing to Latino voters was not in the cards. They didn't think they needed Latino voters to win. And what turned out to happen during the general election is that Trump seemed to make up ground with non-whites who don't have a college degree, particularly Hispanics. So I want to take you back to that headline from May, where the Biden campaign just really made clear that it doesn't consider Latinos part of their path to victory, political operatives say.
Oops.
In that article, Biden's primary campaign had a distant, if not tense, relationship with Latino voters, as he not only neglected to reach out to them, but never quite rectified his connection to the Obama administration's aggressive deportation policy. Biden became the presumptive Democratic nominee in spite of, not because of, his Latino outreach political rights, but more than 20 Latino political operatives say his luck may not hold in the general election. Now, on election night, one thing that became very clear was that he was not doing well with the Latino vote, so that prediction was actually very, very accurate. And so I want to give you the stats from one particular county in the state of Texas. This really blew my mind, and it shows you the intense failure of the Biden campaign when it comes to this particular strategy. So Zapata County, Texas, is the second most Hispanic county in America. In 2012, Obama actually won that county by 43 points. 2016, even Hillary Clinton won by 33 points. 2020, Biden lost it by 5 points. He lost it by 5 points. Trump actually gained support among Black and Latino voters, okay? 8% of Black women voted for Donald Trump. Just let that sink in for a second. And so Biden won the Hispanic vote by 19 points this year, and that's according to the exits. But that's down from Hillary Clinton's 27-point margin in 2016. A number of heavily Hispanic counties in the Rio Grande Valley shifted toward Trump. Zapata County, as we just talked about, to name one, broke for Trump by 5 points, with most of the expected vote counted after Hillary won it by more than 30 points in 2016. The president's share of the county's vote jumped from 33% to 52% in his reelection bid. In 2020, Biden also lost several counties, Valverde, Jim Wells, Frio among them, that Barack Obama, Clinton, and Beto O'Rourke had won in previous elections.
So I want to tell you about one more county, Starr County. It's only 96% Latino. So how did Biden do there? Well, I mean, look, you can't blow that one. Even Clinton had a 60-point lead there. Biden brought it down to a 5-point lead. So in Starr County, he lost 55 points. In Zapata County, he lost 48 points. Anybody remember who did really well with Latinos in the Democratic primaries? Oh, right, Bernie Sanders. The one they said wasn't electable. And his campaign advisor, Chuck Rocha, actually reached out to the Biden campaign and eventually in frustration to the press, not as a Monday morning quarterback, all the way back in early September. He said, what are you guys doing? We talk about the Latino vote. You guys aren't doing anything to try to go get it. Please help. We're trying to get Latino votes for you, but you got to step in and help here. Nothing. And so they took him for granted. Oops. And guys, why? What's going on here? Well, that's because economic populism works. What do folks care about? They care about jobs and wages. Now, did Trump bring them jobs? Hell no. He actually lost more jobs than any president since World War II, okay? He lost 5 million jobs on his watch. Does anybody know that? No, because Biden never made his own case. Every day he could have been like, he lost 5 million jobs, he lost 5 million jobs. This guy's the worst at losing jobs, the worst since World War II. They never made the case. So, and why did Bernie do so well with Latinos? He said jobs and higher wages. It's not that complicated. And in Bernie's case, he actually meant it. Biden, even if you didn't mean it, why didn't you say it? God, they're so bad at politics. They're so unbelievably bad at it. He barely won, it looks like, and we're not even sure. By the way, you know what the last remaining state is that Biden has to win as we do this show live right now? Nevada. You know what Nevada has? Tons of Latino voters.
Who overwhelmingly showed up for Bernie, by the way.
I was just about to say, do you know how much Bernie won it by? By about 40 points in the primaries. So if Bernie was a candidate, Nevada would have been called instantly. So, but hey, all the really smart pundits on cable news told you Bernie's not electable, Joe Biden is. Oops. All right, so guys, we got an amazing post game for you guys. We're gonna do drugs. Story about drugs. We're gonna do a story about why the stock market is booming. It's gonna drive you crazy. I'm gonna tell you about whether we can pass the public option and polling, what went wrong. I have an explanation of that. So hit the join button below on YouTube, tyt.com/join anywhere else. And we'll see you guys in the post game in just a couple of minutes. Stay right here. Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.